Hey everybody, how's it going today? So what do I got now? I got a 2009 Chevy Malibu, and the low power light would come on, or engine reduced power I should say. Check engine light would come on, and the thing would have a pretty good hesitation to it. You could clear the codes and they would pretty much come back immediately. It would run fine for a short period of time, and then all of a sudden it would go into the low power situation where it would cut the power down. So what's going on? All right. Well, it's got a code P0107 for manifold absolute pressure map sensor circuit low voltage. What does that mean? Okay, whenever you see low, usually it means that the reference, whatever's going back to the PCM that the PCM is reading, low usually means it's not seeing any movement. It's staying down below, say, 0.2 volts. Usually that means the wire is grounded somewhere. Could be a bad sensor. Could be a bad sensor. However, this is not the first time I've seen it on this particular vehicle. Not this vehicle, but a vehicle just like this. And I've seen it on a 2.4. I already did look, and sure enough, it happened to this one too, as it happened to the other one. I think I made a video on the other one. If the code, I don't know what the code number would be, but if the code said sensor circuit high voltage, then what that would mean is that the voltage on that reference line going back, or the reference wire going back to the PCM, let's say it was reading over, I believe it's supposed to see up to 5 volts. I believe, I'm not 100% positive, I didn't look into it. But if it read that it was high, usually it would be like shorted to voltage. Like it would have 12 volts or something like that, like a constant. So if you ever see that where a code reads high, it's shorted to voltage somewhere. Could be in the sensor itself. Usually a sensor only carries 5 volts, so it may be stuck at 5, and that may be enough to throw the code. I don't know. But usually if it reads circuit low voltage, usually that means low means that it's grounded, that the voltage is not coming up to where it's supposed to be. And like I said, this would set instantly. So what is it? On these in particular, and I found this before, and as a matter of fact, I think it was a Malibu, the wiring coming from the intake manifold, where it routes down and goes like towards the underside of the intake. It actually doesn't go under, but it goes towards the underside of the intake, but towards the front. Where it goes down into a connector, the way they have it zip tied out of the way, at some point it actually will start to rub on the AC line. And that's what this one did. So let's go under the hood and let me show you what I found. So here you see I already moved the engine cover out of the way. And over here you could see there's the map sensor right there. And if you look really close, the harness for the injectors and the map sensor run forward here, and they go down. And what I have found, see how it's resting up against that hose, or the pipe for the AC, and you can see where it's actually rubbed into it pretty hard there. So now, if I could pull this up, let me see if you could see it. Let me get to where it's exposed, because you can actually physically see the wiring in there. Let me get to that so I could show you. And there you go. If you look close, you could see, let me get my camera down there a little better. But you can see several wires have rubbed through. This brownish one, this greenish one there. They've all rubbed through. So basically they were grounding out on that AC pipe right there. So now what I got to do is, yeah, you can, if you really wanted to, you could wrap it with electrical tape. That is not the right way to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut the ends off, and or not cut the ends off, cut the wire right where it's worn through. I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to peel back the insulation, and I'm actually going to splice it back together. This way I can put heat shrink over it, and this way it'll be a good permanent repair. If the wires looked absolutely perfect, before I cut it, if they looked absolutely perfect, you can go ahead and you can use like liquid tape, the electrical tape, the liquid stuff. That stuff's waterproof and everything else. I've used that; it does work well, especially in certain situations. A lot of times that will work even better than doing what I'm going to do. Like marine applications, sometimes that works very well too. It's 100% guaranteed it's not going to leak as long as you have it on there correctly. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to start stripping that open. This way I can see everything that's going on. There you can see I have it unhooked in a few spots, the harness, and I opened up the loom itself. And also what this lets me do is it lets me check each wire. Like I could put pressure on each wire, tugging on it to make sure there's nothing broken anywhere, because that could be a whole, another problem. Like wire could be broken inside the loom and I would never know it. So, I mean, it could look fine, but be broken inside. So, all right, let me go on and start fixing this. So there you see, those are the non-insulated butt connectors that I used. I fixed that. There's the heat shrink that I'm going to put under that has the glue in it. Now this wire here, this gray one, or brown one, this one, it just barely came through. So what I did was I depinned the connector and actually slid heat shrink over it, because it didn't appear to do any damage to the wire itself. The other two, it was questionable, so that's why I actually cut it and did that. So now I'm going to put this all back together. I'm going to heat shrink this first, and then I'm going to wrap it up with tape, and then this way I can route it out of the way, and it shouldn't be a problem ever again. There it is. It's all routed out of the way. It's zip tied down here. Kind of hard to see, but it's right there. So the harness is up over this tube. It's not even close. You can see I got my finger underneath there, no problem. But anyway, yes, everything's routed out of the way. So now I just got to assemble that, the top of the airbox stuff, make sure that it's sealed onto the throttle body, and yeah, and then we're going to go inside, clear the codes, and let's go for a road test. All right, so I got an additional problem now. So I cleared everything out. I mean, you saw me, I put all that together, and now I cleared everything out, and the code won't clear. It comes back immediately like it did before. I mean, I know I had a problem there with the wiring, you saw that, and that's the same problem I've had before in other vehicles. So now I went into data to look at data, and let me show you this. It's showing map voltage right there at 0, and it's showing just above it map vacuum at 0. Now when I start this, it should change. See that? I got absolutely nothing. So I lost something somewhere. So now what I'm going to have to do is, I may not have a 5-volt reference getting out to the map sensor. So now what I'm going to have to do is I got to go out to the map sensor, and I got to start checking the actual sensor readings and see what's going on right at the sensor. So let me go underneath the hood and start messing with that. So I started going through the troubleshooting, and I found that on the low reference side, if I start going through the tests, it tells you to check the resistance basically to ground, and it wants to know, do you have above a certain amount of resistance. Wow, that's a loud frog. Anyway, they want to know if you have a certain amount of resistance, which I had way above that. I had quite a bit of resistance on that one. And then they also want you to short out the low reference to the 5 volts and see if it changes on the scanner, and it does, and it changes. So that tells me all of that's good. So now, the high resistance, is that in the PCM? Is it in the harness? I don't know. That's what I got to find out. But what I did do is, let me show you this. So for now, I ran a jumper from here on through to where this short harness connects here, and I only have 0.2 of an ohm of resistance. So we're good there. I'm fine with that. That's absolutely perfect. So I know that this little harness is fine. But now let me hook it up to the other side. Now also, if you pay attention, I'm not in the actual pin there. Let's see if we can focus in on that. You see that? I'm off to the back side of the pin. You don't want to be actually into the pin, because you could spread out the terminal, and then if you do that, you could have a problem. Wow, that is a loud frog. Anyway, so let me show you what the other reading is. So now with the harness hooked up, I'm going to ground like the scanner wants, or like the diagnostic test wants me to do. And I'm going from the back side of the connector, or from off the side of the connector here, and I'm connected, or I'm contacting the terminal. As you see, I'm not into the terminal, I'm into that hole to the side of it. Like I said, you do not want to go in there if you can all avoid it, because you can damage it. So now I got 14 ohms of resistance. So now what I got to do is I got to disconnect the PCM right there, figure out which terminal it is in there, and see, is the resistance in the harness or is the resistance in the computer? Because if the resistance is in the computer, then I'm going to need a computer. It's possible when that thing was shorted out down there that it took out the PCM. I've seen it before, but let's find out. All right, so it looks like it's going to need a PCM. So that short did wipe out the PCM apparently. So let me show you what I did. I actually have the correct terminal kit to test or to actually, when you're going to do testing of the wiring harness, I have the correct kit so you can actually probe the actual terminals in the connector for the PCM. Let me show you that. See this right here? It's the correct size. This way you can go in there without damaging the female terminal end. So right now I have 4 ohms of resistance, or 0.4 of an ohm of resistance, which is perfect. So basically I'm going from that point. I never touched that. I just went over here, found out what the right pin was in the PCM and hooked that up. So it appears that we're going to have an issue with this. Now, the one thing I am going to do, remember I said about discharging capacitors and stuff like that? I'm going to actually do that. I'm going to put this back together and I'm going to discharge the capacitors just out of curiosity to see. I've seen stranger things. Do I think it'll fix it? No, I don't. But it's worth a shot. It's not going to cost me anything to do it. And you never know. It could bring that computer back to life. Maybe it just doesn't want to clear out. Maybe it's got an issue that just won't let go because it's never lost battery voltage. So let me put this all back together the way it's supposed to be. Then I'm going to do that, and then we'll hook the scanner back up and see what we got. And there we go. Everything's hooked back up. Harness is back together, everything else. So here we have the negative. I'm going to hold the wrench to it and just... You don't have to worry about blowing anything up. You're not connected to negative. What this does is it discharges the capacitors in the computer. Like I said, I don't think it's going to work, but you never know. I've seen stranger things. So let me hook this up. You see the lights are coming on. Let me hook this up and bolt it down, and let me get my computer started up and let's see what we got. So there we go. We're hooked up. Now let's just go into the scanner. Actually, let's just go here. It'll probably self-populate, but I just don't want to waste my time. Okay, good, good. It should go into engine. Yep, so let's go codes menu, just out of curiosity. Yep, see, it came right back because the ground circuit's way too, it's got too much resistance on it, so it thinks it's shorted. But let's just try clearing it again just in case. Alright, keys on, engine's off, blah, 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 blah. Clear codes, good, codes menu. And it came right back. Okay, so I know I need a PCM at this point. But you know what? It was worth a shot trying to discharge a capacitor. Sometimes it does work. I've seen it. That frog is something else. That's a tree frog, in case you're wondering. They're all over the place down here. I think he's under the hood of that GMC. Anyway, so like I said, it was worth a shot. It didn't work. Now we're going to have to get a PCM. But yeah, so hopefully you got something out of that. This thing's got 200,000 miles on it. I don't know if they want to spend that kind of money putting a PCM in it. Maybe we have a used ones in the lot. I gotta say, we might actually have a used one, and then have the programmer come down and program it to this vehicle. We're gonna see what we want to do. But yeah, so if you got something out of the video, hit that like button. If you could, please subscribe. All right, guys, have a great day. Keep wrenching.